Hello, my name is Ella5900. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining a bit about the weapon Reforge system in Cops and Robbers. It's a brand new system that's just been released in this update, and there's a few other things with this update as well, like the events and stuff like that, but I can do them another time or not at all. Oh, great, my battery's low. Anyways, what I'll do today is explain a bit about the weapon reforging, how to do it, what the best choices are, some good weapons that you might want to reforge in the future. This is not comprehensive. In fact, I'm actually coding a calculator for weapon stats where I can calculate the base stats, reforges, the weapon enchanted cards, and armor and put them together to get final stats. But that's not complete yet, but it will be quite soon. Anyways, so I'll explain a bit about this system. So with the props section, I believe it is, yes, you have these new sections for weapon reforge cards. So how they work is you can use them on any weapon that is not a custom, is any of the categories in there, so no specials, unfortunately, and no melees. That is S tier and level 7. So SS weapons don't count. Any S weapon that isn't level 7 doesn't count. Any weapon that's A, B, C, or D doesn't count. That's just the support amount of weapons. But most weapons can be reforged into S and level 7. So if you have a weapon in the store and you've not got it to S7 yet, for example, you've got like a weapon like the Razor or the FAMAS, you can get Core S, I believe it's called. Yes. And you can get these in zombie mode. I have a video on this on YouTube, and also quality upstones, which you can get a lot of. You can get a lot of both in the primary chests and the theme chests. The theme chests can give you 10 Core S if you're lucky, so you can get them quite quickly that way. And also coins to upgrade the weapons and gems. You can get tons of them in the primary chest and play in the game, so I think that's out of the question. So anyways, let me show you a bit about how this works. So let me go to a rifle that I think is good for reforging. So we have the Shining Clouds here. The Shining Clouds is A7, I believe, when you get it, but then you upgrade it to S7 once you unlock this weapon, if they even re-release this. But you'll see a section here called Reforge. And as you can see here, it says use a weapon reforge card to reforge a weapon attribute and randomly increase one attribute by 1 and decrease a random attribute by 1 point. So that doesn't mean the stat itself is going down by 1. The points are like a hop of stats. So think about when you're upgrading a custom, that when you go up a point, the power could go up by like 4. That's what we're dealing with here. So with the maximum increase or decrease limit of all attributes being 6 points, there's a hard limit on the reforges that you can get. So I'm not fully sure on the logic on this, but you have to... So there is a finite amount of combinations that works on here. Let me explain a bit about the logic. So let's say a weapon that has no reforges has a number for each of the individual attributes. So when they're not reforged, they're 0. So you'd have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. The sum of all of these numbers is 0. Then if you add a reforge, you add +1 to one or -1 to another. And when you do that, the sum again equals 0. So when you add these, on multiple stats and the sum still equals 0, then you're still in what's reforgeable, basically. So a cool fact I learned along the way is that there are 30,162,301 unique reforge combinations that you can have for a weapon. Obviously, the best one depends on the stats of the weapon here. So what I'm going to show you is when looking for a reforge, you want to look for stats that are extremely high for a weapon, like so high you kind of don't care that it's up. So for example, in the Shining Clouds, the effective range is insanely high. It's 49. So if we compare this to other rifles, the effective range for mass 35, Toy Gun Fish 42, Toy Gun Storm 42, a 43 for ice rifle, 43 for HK. So 49 is incredibly high. So I don't have many weapon reforges for rifles, but what I would aim to do is just keep getting reforges that increase the stuff that I want. So power, armor penetration, and fire rate or accuracy, while just decreasing the effective range, because I could decrease the effective range down to like 43 and everything else goes up and it's fantastic. So if we try it now, I'll show you how it looks. So the accuracy goes up to 72 and the movement speed drops to 220. To be fair, that's also okay. I'm fine with 220 movement speed because everyone uses like the Lucky 7 and stuff now. So I'm going to keep that in there with the replace button. So now you can see the accuracy has increased to 72 from 220. If you're unsure about how much the stats hopped up, just make a custom weapon. I think it's either the same or very close. So anyways, you can see that we have the 72 stats appear on the Shining Clouds here. So I have a SMG that I've already took the honor of buffing with Reforges. It's not complete yet, but you'll see what I'm cooking here. The Lucky Elf. I really like this weapon, despite how problematic you think the stats might be, because I really like that the bullets are invisible. If you have the dual anglerfish, that's the name of it, they're also invisible and they're better, so you could use them. But I just have a preference. And I increase the fire rate by 2 and the clips down by 40 and the reload by 38 because I've got good armor. Your armor can also tell what stats you want to increase or decrease. So let's say you have a high fire rate armor. Maybe you don't care about increasing fire rate for a Reforge as much because you can just increase power or something else instead. Unless you want to make a weapon that's so obnoxiously fast, you can. Although you need to have a specific weapon isolated for that as well, because keep in mind, you can have an unlimited amount of unique customs. You know, you can change the stats at any time. Despite having a limit of 200 in your account, you can just take one out, change the stats, or just change an existing one. But with system weapons, it's not that easy, so you need to be a bit more calculated about this. Anyways, another one that's good is snipers. Snipers are quite easy because they're very simple. You know, you see a lot of snipers that their armor penetrations in the 90s, usually high power from, 180 is like the key good power. One that I'm really like recently is a new Trail Watcher, because the Trail Watcher has insanely high power and armor penetration. And you could lower the armor penetration down to like 90, like all these other ones if you wanted. So that's a few points to reserve there. I can increase the fire rate, so I can shoot it faster. I could lower the clips because I could use a clips card, or because of how armor is laid out, I can have a clips buff on snipers without sacrificing other stuff. So I'm using the Reforges on these. So I've got a fire rate +1 and a clips -1. If I get more of these, I'll just keep upping the fire rate, try and reduce the armor penetration. It's a gambling game. You need to gamble. You won't get the same combination here and back every time. Another good one that I see people use a lot is the Dread Pulse SMG, because the stats all around are just incredible. So, you have good armor pen, very good armor pen in comparison to some of these other SMGs where it's like 50, mid-50s. So 59 is quite high. The fire rate is also pretty good. Not like super high, but it's whatever. The effective range is also what if, So you could probably lower the effective range a little bit, or the movement speed, because the Dread Pulse increases the movement speed when you kill people with it. So there's tons of opportunities to increase the power of that weapon in particular, but there's tons and tons of different unique weapons here. Like, as you can see, I've got 180 different rifles. I couldn't go through each of these at once, but I hope that explains a bit more about how to reforge a weapon properly in this game. Anyways, that's all I had for you today.